And then when you're ready. For you to get to talk.
Nah, I'm good. I don't know what to say. You got notes?
All right. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. As all the Boy Scouts and my scout troop know, we like to start dead on time. I don't want to waste anybody's time. We're obviously going to be here for a while, so I hope you're ready for that. I'm impressed so many people showed up because all we're offering is cookies. When I used to teach and at the college level, I couldn't really get all of my class that was paying to be in the class to show up. So I'm impressed that you're here on a Tuesday night for us. My goal tonight is to make you all entomologists by the end of this, right? We've got a lot to unpack, a lot to uncover about how we do the science and the operations of mosquito control. And so I hope you can learn something, and I hope you can be more informed as the night goes through. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge our elected officials that are here with us, and thank you for coming. We have Ms. Cheryl Tanner, Ms. Martha Casabon, and Mr. Larry Rolling, our parish council members. Is there anyone else I meant? Thank you. Yeah. Is there anyone else I missed in the room? Any other elected officials? Yes. All right. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate that. I'd also like to recognize the members of our Board of Commissioners, Dr. Vicki Traynor-Dors, who's our chairperson, Ms. Catherine Townsend, and Mr. Glenn Boyer as well. Okay, we've got a lot of information to cover, but first I've got a really special guest. I'd asked Miss Amanda Young to come tonight to give her story of surviving West Nile virus. Amanda?
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I rise
My name is Amanda, and I would like to share my story with you tonight. A story that is hard for me to look back on and relive. I hope it will enlighten you, touch your heart, and educate you, and put a face to the importance of why we need mosquito control. First, I have a few questions. What do you love about living in Louisiana? Is it being surrounded by community and family? Is it the festivities and the party atmosphere we have here? Is it the amazing weather? Now think about those things without mosquito control. Would you worry about your family members being bit by what could be a deadly virus? Would you attend outdoor activities? Would our amazing weather of mostly warm days make mosquitoes worse? I have to say, I never thought about those things. But today, as a survivor, I definitely do now. You see, in August of 2013, I was living my best life. I loved hanging out with friends, attending outdoor events, training and running for a half marathon, camping, and most of all, loving on my 4-year-old niece. I was, and still am, a pre-K teacher, and at night I taught at a dance studio. I had my whole life ahead of me, plenty of time to settle down, get married, and hope one day to have kids of my own. Why rush? Then my life changed. On a Monday, I had gone to my family doctor thinking I had just a sinus infection. I had slight swollen glands and crazy strange head pressure. I wasn't the type to lay sick in bed. The next day, I went for my daily run. Wednesday, I was trying so hard to run, but mostly walking it. Thursday, I went home and went straight to bed after work. Not me at all. Friday, I was falling asleep at work, and my head was beginning to feel heavy, and things were starting to seem cloudy. That weekend, my family left town for a camping trip, and my friends headed out on the town. I was bound and determined not to be sick. I tried to pull myself together. I went and got my nails done, but soon realized something bigger was going on. By Saturday night, the glands in my body started to swell. They became so enlarged in my neck, I had a problem swallowing. The pressure in my head was like nothing I had ever felt. And this was just the beginning. The pain was starting to become unreal. Monday morning, I head back to the doctor. By this point, I had a stiff neck. I was shaking. I couldn't really talk, couldn't hold my head up. My eyes were glazed over. I felt like death. And my head felt like it was going to explode. My doctor looked at me, and I could see the fear in her eyes. She said, "I'm going to run blood work, but I foresee you going into the hospital." Surprisingly, everything came back okay, showing probably just a virus. "Wait it out," she said. "See if things get better. Call back if it gets worse." By Wednesday, I couldn't take the pressure anymore. A rash appeared. The pressure in my eyes were unbelievable. The lights were starting to hurt them. I went back to the doctor, grasping at anything. Maybe a bladder infection. It was negative. She was exhausted with ideas and suggested the hospital. At the hospital, they ran all the same blood tests. I even asked at this point if it could be West Nile. And the response I got was, "There is nothing we could do if it is." The nurse told me maybe I was depressed. At that moment, I looked over at my friend who brought me and asked if I was crazy. I had never felt like this before, and I was in so much pain. I was slowly to start to feel like I was no longer in my body. Any sound was deafening. 2 weeks later, friends and family started to become extremely worried. A basic task of drinking through a straw, I could no longer do. They insisted I try another hospital. By that point, I could barely stand up. The walls were my guide. At the hospital, I had a CAT scan and they did a spinal tap. They could only come up with a strange virus and sent me home. You see, to be tested for West Nile, you have to know to run the test. Many doctors do not know to look for it. Again, I left a medical institution and still had no answers. 5 minutes into leaving, I started crying and screaming. My mom tried to bring me back, but I didn't have it in me. No one cared to figure out what was going on. My dad was just about at his breaking point when he had to pick me up off the toilet because I could barely use my legs by then. At this point, I am 3 weeks into this nightmare. My last hope, I had an appointment with a neurologist. He looked at me and asked if they had tested me for West Nile. He sent me straight for blood work, and he believed I was having a spinal tap leak. So he put me on strict bed rest. By this point, I started coming across people that I knew, but I didn't know who they were. I was getting lost in my 1-bedroom cottage. 1 month into this fight, it was confirmed that I did indeed have West Nile encephalitis. As bad as everything was, I had a sigh of relief that I had an answer. But guess what? There was nothing they could do, or so they said. The virus continued to attack my body almost till there was nothing left. And for all survivors, it's different. My face became deformed and paralyzed. I looked like I'd had a stroke. The left side of my body became weaker, and I became less stable. My hair started to fall out, and my toenails started to fall off. You see, when you have something like cancer or a heart attack or even a stroke, in today's world, we have a preventative care and testing and medication that can help with a treatment plan. You get a plan and you are driven to fight. Not with West Nile. You are left with nothing, no plan, and hopeless. There are no drugs, no target therapies, and by the time you are diagnosed, most of the damage is done. Up to 50% of patients with West Nile encephalitis experience long-term neurological impairments that last for months to years and sometimes ending in death. Doctors tried to treat my symptoms, but they were constantly changing. I had been given so many steroids to try to help with the brain swelling and told to take ibuprofen for pain. Most nights I cried myself to sleep, but this one particular night, I had had my breaking point. I had lost my fight and had given up. And I asked God to take me home. The pain and the unknown were more than I could bear. And I'm pretty sure I looked death in the eyes that night. But as you can see, God wasn't ready for me yet. And I knew I had to dig deep and fight for myself. At this point, I started looking for anyone that could help. I did a lot of research on my own. West Nile is not well known, and doctors are not educated in it. What makes it even harder is that no case are the same. I was told the virus had left my body at that point, but it had created a multitude of issues. I was left with severe gastritis and a stomach condition called gastroparesis. It is where your stomach becomes paralyzed. The food that you eat will just sit there and rot. And when I did try to eat, it would blow it up like a balloon and cause agonizing pain. That was followed by the inability to absorb certain sugars and vitamins called malabsorption. I could not absorb fructose or sucrose and a lot of other nutrients. I had lost so much weight that it became another worry in itself. West Nile had damaged my autonomic nervous system. I was diagnosed with postural orthostatic tachycardia, otherwise known as POT syndrome. At any moment, my heart rate would hit a high heartbeat of around 180 and then plummet and drop into the 30s. It would cause dizzy and fainting spells. I remember one afternoon, I went to get a massage because I thought that would make me feel better. And here's a little side note. They were scared to touch me for the fear of the unknown. Like I said, most people know nothing about it. But after I left, I stopped at our family jeweler, and upon talking to them, I passed out. My body could no longer regulate itself. As helpless as I felt, no one could give me any answers. I wore sunglasses 24/7 because my eyes did not dilate. I had been through skin biopsies, lip biopsies, heart monitors, 15 tubes of blood draws on multiple occasions, and everything led to something else. Through my research, I came across a doctor that specialized in West Nile research. His name was Dr. Lace, and he didn't see just anyone. I had to prove that I was worth seeing. He had just taken on a new fellowship at Mayo Clinic in Arizona. I spent 6 hours in his office being examined, poked, and shocked. I had every medical note that I had ever had, which he was impressed with. The conclusion, yes, your case is different, but you will struggle with this now forever. I was told to hang up my dance career and look for a quieter job. Basically, you're left with this. Again, not the answer I was looking for. I joined a West Nile support group that his office was involved with. At one of the meetings, I gave him a very detailed log of my heart rhythms that a local doctor said I was fine and to just run and reset my heart. He glanced at it and said I would probably not survive running. It was at that moment I saw hope for the first time. Dr. Lace got me accepted into Mayo Clinic, and I started the journey of healing. I saw some of the best physicians in this country. One after one of my major tests was done, I was told I needed a wheelchair. The findings were severe enough that I shouldn't have been standing on my own 2 feet. I can tell you I had made it that far. I wasn't about to succumb to a wheelchair. By the grace of God, I was allowed to try an experimental treatment. There was no guarantee, but I did a 3-month trial of IVIG, which is immunotherapy plasma. I had to show improvement. After 3 months, I went through all the same tests and indeed showed enough progress I could continue. For 2.5 years, every 2 weeks, I was given 2 full days of IVIG. The days were long, tough, and lonely at times, but I never gave up. Today, I stand before you, and I look like a healthy, healed woman, but I am one of the lucky ones. Remember when I said God wasn't ready for me? I truly believe He gave me the strength to fight so that I could be a voice for those who lost their battle, educate those who are unaware, and to help fellow survivors fight. Every morning, I pinch myself because I never thought I would see me again. I fought for 8 long years. I lost friends and life experiences. No one wanted to date a sick person. I do often wonder where I would be if this had never happened. But I know I am blessed to see the other side. Many do not. People ask, are you healed? My answer at this moment, I am. Most of my ailments are in remission. I've been told they never go away. I don't know what my future holds. That is only known by God. But He has given me the second chance. There's a saying, everything happens for a reason. When I was in the thick of it, I wondered, why me? It was me, so it doesn't have to be you. The reason I share my story is because I want to give you a face to put with the reason why mosquito control is so important in our parish. My story could be your wife's story, your mother's, your daughter's. The road was not easy, but I am standing before you as a living reminder that something this rare could be the normal without St. Tammany Mosquito Abatement Team. Please support them and thank them, because the next phase of West Nile should never be someone you love. Thank you for listening. Protect our parish, control the mosquitoes, and save a life. Thank you.
Sure. Maybe I missed it, but where were you living when you got there?
In Avita Springs.
The heck are we doing here? This is crazy. You have one thing that all successful people have, and that's personal. By your life. Thank you.
Whew. Thank you, Amanda, for sharing your story of survivorship. I can speak, as long as I don't get emotional, I can speak for all of our team and all of the professionals here across our whole field of mosquito control, that we're heartbroken every time we hear of another case. You know, this is our chosen profession, but for many of us, this is really a vocation to public service. And preventing illness is why we chose public health. Okay. I got through that, so now I can get on to the real meaty stuff, right? Now we can learn about mosquito control. So if you weren't aware, the incidence of West Nile virus across the United States looks something like this. Across 20 years in the United States, it was first introduced into New York City in 1999, and then spread across the country in this region in 2002. You notice there's a hot spot here in the Gulf south of West Nile virus incidence. It's quite unknown as to what's contributing to this hotspot increased West Nile case occurrence, but it's a real thing. So West Nile virus in Louisiana since 2002, we've had over 2,000 cases, about 124 deaths, and we've had about 186 cases here in St. Tammany. What you're seeing here, the orange line is the number of cases across Louisiana, and the bars are the cases in St. Tammany. Of course, they're on different axes here. So note that the St. Tammany cases are on this axis here. But what you see is these periodic outbreaks that occur every year since 2002, but we have these pronounced outbreaks every 4 or 5 years or so. And we're now in the fifth wave, our fifth outbreak since the introduction here. We actually have 11 cases of West Nile virus in St. Tammany just this year as well. So this is what we're really battling. And this is what it looks like across the season. Across a year, on average, we have this summertime peak. And we have that for several reasons. Most notably, West Nile virus is a bird-borne disease. This is a bird pathogen, essentially. Mosquitoes happen to pick it up from birds, and then they will transmit it to another bird. They'll transmit it to a person. Person might get sick from that virus, but we're not able to transmit it back to another mosquito. We're a dead-end host. So what's happening this portion of the year? Well, this is right after our bird nesting season, right? So we have all these fledgling birds, many of which have never seen. They're completely immunologically naive, just as we were to COVID. Those nestling birds of the year are naive to West Nile virus, where their parents may have been infected prior. The birds haven't. So they are sort of the fuel for this virus every summer. So we see this peak in cases, also associated with the heat of the summer as well. So those are our human cases. And I've overlaid a graph of when we see infected mosquitoes. And notice that the line for infected mosquitoes, we see a full 4 weeks ahead of time before we start seeing human cases onset. And so this is why we look for West Nile virus in mosquitoes first, why we trap them in the environment, we bring them into our lab and we test them, because we have a lead time there where we can take some actions to try to bring those populations of infected mosquitoes down as quickly as possible to reduce risk to people. And that's sort of, that time period right there is where the rubber meets the road. But of course, that's happening every week of this outbreak throughout a season as well. And that's essentially where we operate. We operate in the space between when we can see it in mosquitoes in the environment and when we start to see it in people. And in a non-epidemic year, so in an endemic year, we tend to see, these are the mean number of cases across all of Louisiana. We tend to see a distribution like this. And that's fine. Those cases stay under about 4 cases in any given week. In an epidemic year, that explodes to an epidemic curve just like this. And so really what we're trying to do is we're trying to manage this system to keep a lid on those cases from going to those epidemic levels, to those red bars instead of those gray bars. We're always going to have some cases here and there. It's a very unpredictable disease to predict where it's going to pop up, and that's because it's in the bird population. We can't get rid of those birds that are transmitting it back to mosquitoes. And so we have to be continuously vigilant, watching, doing surveillance, setting traps. We do that every week of the year, looking for virus in those populations. All right, so I'm going to cover a lot of things. That was, of course, the deep background in epidemiology. I'm going to talk a lot about our district. Then I'm going to concentrate in the uncomfortable subject of the process for review that our district has been under against or performed by some members of the parish council and the district attorney's office. I'm going to focus on some specific items for rebuttal from their presentation that were mischaracterized in the October 23rd presentation to the Government Efficiency Committee. And then we'll hear from other subject matter experts in the room in mosquito control. And finally, we'll talk about what services are at stake due to this one-sided and underinformed attack on the taxpayers' dedicated services. We'll finally end with a public comment period and some questions from y'all if you're interested too. But I want to dive into why we're a special district and why we're here in the first place. We were created, excuse me, in 1968. So St. Tammany Parish Mosquito Abatement has been in existence for 57 years now. And under the state statute to create mosquito abatement districts, this is the statute that says the purposes why we're here are for the abatement, the control, eradication of mosquitoes and other arthropods of public health importance and all activities incidental thereto. So quite a wide breadth of activities for our purpose. In 1968, the parish council, at the time, the parish police jury wrote this original ordinance on April 18th, creating our district out of the wards 8 and 9, just here in the Slidell region. And eventually we went to parish-wide in 2003. We brought on the Beta in Madisonville at that time. And in 2002, we had that explosion of West Nile virus across the region. Really starting here in St. Tammany, we had experts from the CDC came down to advise us on how to perform those mitigation measures because of that outbreak. Started here. All right. So the benefit of a special taxing district is, and I'm gonna all the politicians could close their ears for a second, is that no offense, there is no politician between your dedicated tax dollars and the service that you've dedicated those funds for. That money has no one else in between it. We are here, these commissioners who are sitting here in the front row, these folks are your liaisons to the taxpayers. They're volunteers. They have volunteered. They have to sit with us monthly and have 2-hour, 3-hour meetings to go through all of our business, right? So they set our policies, they approve our budgets, they set the millage rates, and they oversee management. And so we're pleased that we have such qualified individuals. Dr. Traina Doors is a virologist at the Tulane Biomedical Research Center. Catherine Townsend and Glenn Boyer are both retired from Navy, right? Civil Service, Oceanographic Office. Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, due to political pressure, Ms. Terry Lewis Stevens and Mr. Jake Groby, a former council member, have resigned recently due to some of the political pressure that's been mounted on us as well. But these are the folks that really oversee the service. All right, so what are you getting for your tax dollars? Now, we're currently collecting at 2.27 mils. That you probably just received your tax bill. I received mine yesterday, right? So we lowered our millage down to 2.27 from 3.1 mils. And so for the median household in St. Tammany, which is about a $300,000 home, you would pay $51 in taxes coming to Mosquito Abatement for the services that you're about to hear about. So $51, that's what you need to understand. Half of what you're paying for are aerial mosquito control treatments, ground mosquito control treatments, so that's the trucks. You're also paying for surveillance and GIS, which is informing where those treatments are going, right? And of course, we have administrative and facilities management has to go in there, and we maintain a vehicle fleet of about 45 vehicles as well to do that service. So this is what your $51 is getting you. This is our millage rate over time. That's okay. The folks that are online probably can't see us, unfortunately, but this is our millage rate over time. You'll notice in 2002, we were collecting at 4.2 mils. We received a supplemental millage right when West Nile virus came. And then we let that expire. And then we've been collecting at 4.2. We renewed our millage, and it's a 10-year millage renewal, last renewed in 2016 at 4.2 mils. And last year we were collecting at 3.1 mils, and we've dropped that by another 0.83 mils. So a pretty significant cut to our millage rate, as you'll see on your tax bill. All the same while, since 2002, inflation has risen by 80%. So what you bought for $1, which I looked it up, that was essentially the cost of a dozen eggs in 2002. Will now costs at least $1.80. And eggs, if anyone's been to the grocery store, cost a good bit more than that, not $1.80. And so that same truck, this is what we purchase a lot of course, and we're purchasing off the state contract. So these aren't prices you're going to get at the retail store. But that same F-150 truck back in 2002, we purchased for $12,000. If anybody's purchased a truck recently, you can know that it's not available that way. On the state contract this year, it's $36,000. And of course, you'll never find that on the lot. So inflation has incredibly increased over those years. As the parish has grown, we've been able to continuously cut this millage, though, keeping pace with that. All right, this is my tax bill. So you'll notice that Mosquito District 2, that's us, decreased by 8/10 of a mil. And the close-up on my tax bill shows that our Mosquito District is costing me $57 on the tax bill I just received yesterday. So look for that tax rebate coming to you soon. All right, now to the business of mosquito control. And this is the part that's kind of hard for a lot of people to understand. Everybody knows us from the truck you hear and see down the street. And you probably, if you're on the what's going on in Slidell Facebook page, you hear about the plane rattling people's windows as well. What is that low-flying plane? Well, that's just the sort of the tip of the iceberg for what we do. And as I mentioned earlier, surveillance is what drives that ship. Data is driving and making the decisions about where and when we spray. So really the foundation of what we do, our integrated approach, is surveillance. We are a pretty heavy data collection agency. Once we get that information, we want to go ahead and combat mosquitoes in a sort of multimodal fashion. We want to control the source of production of mosquitoes. If we can eliminate the source, then great. If it's a sewage pollution in a ditch coming from a house with a non-maintained septic system, if we can fix the septic system, then we're eliminating the source of the production of that mosquito. When we can't, we'll have to larvicide, use larval control products, insecticides designed to kill larvae, which we do at all of those ditches, 600 miles worth of ditches that we treat weekly across the parish that have sewage pollution in them. If we can't control them that way, then we'll move to our other measures, which are the trucks, the airplanes that you see doing that adult control. We do a lot of this too. We meet with school groups, scout groups. We do a lot of outreach, how to prevent mosquito bites in your backyard, in your home, whatnot. And finally, we do a lot of testing and evaluation. We need to make sure the insecticides that we're using still remain effective, because when we really need it, which is right now, by the way, we had 5 West Nile virus infected mosquito pools returned today, and 2 with Eastern equine encephalitis as well. So now is when we need this, when we have those human cases out there. We need to make sure our insecticides are really working as they should. Our whole plan is published annually, and it is available at that QR code. And that plan is based on these best practices. So both the CDC best practices for West Nile virus and surveillance control, as well as the American Mosquito Control Association. These are their best practices. So our document, our plan, which is published annually, updated every year. We also have a public comment period that we publish in the paper. We want to hear from you. How do you want this service to work? Do you want more mosquito control? Do you want less mosquito control? Do you want us to focus more on larval control than adult control? There's an open period for that, and our Board of Commissioners are the ones that set and approve these rules and these policies. This is sort of our strategy going into a year, and that's in the February-March timeframe that we publish this. That's what this looks like. Okay, so our business of surveillance goes from traps to treatment, and these are the folks that are doing that work. And that treatment looks like traps in the field, employees in the lab identifying each one of these 60 species of mosquito, putting them in pools and groups of mosquitoes and testing them for virus. We do all of that. I don't do it. Our lab employees do it. Our lab team does it. Every day they do this, and they do that within the day. So same day, going from a trap collected in the field to this plane can go up tonight to treat, because we have those infected mosquitoes that we just found. If you call our office or you fill out our web form, you're going to get a trained mosquito biologist within a 24-hour period as well. So same day service to your doorstep. That's where the rubber meets the road. This is the best practice in our industry to quickly bring down, we're there when you need us, basically, and bring down that threat for West Nile virus. So we have a dedicated and very trained team. So why are mosquitoes so bad in St. Tammany? Well, we have an incredible diversity of habitat that you don't see in other places in Louisiana. And in Louisiana, we have some special problems too. We've got, of course, all of the human-related mosquito habitat. I love those tires. We've got coastal and brackish water marsh. We've got aquatic invasive plants that mosquitoes like to attach themselves to, like giant salvinia and water hyacinth. We've got the Pearl River hardwood bottomland swamp. We've got flooded pools just in the middle of the woods out there that can create a big problem. And of course, we have our unique sewage problem as well. So of the 60 species across Louisiana, we have about 47. And so what that means is any given week of the year, even though it's relatively cool outside right now, we've got a certain kind of mosquito that likes that weather. And so we have to adjust all the time. All right, of course, we know that the habitat is extensive, 65 square miles of coastal marsh, coastal brackish marsh. But meteorologically, we have some unique things too. Of course, we have tropical Gulf moisture, tropical levels of precipitation, about 64 inches of rain in a given year, elevated humidity. Those two things, warm temperatures, lots of rainfall, high humidity, that's just perfect for a mosquito. They're just saying, we love it here. We want to be active every day of the year. Of course, we've got hurricanes as well that challenge us, those warm temperatures, low elevation. So when rain falls, where's it going to go if it doesn't have the slope to get it to that ditch or drain off? But the thing that I like to say all the time, it's the presence of our clay soils, which we don't look at, we don't see. The water can't penetrate a clay soil, right? And of the 4 most populated parishes across our state, which we're number 4, We're the only one of those 4 that has this clay. So this band of yellow and the band of orange are Pleistocene and Pliocene clays. And if you've ever tried to dig or even do a perk test for a septic system, it's not going to perk because the water's not going to go anywhere. And so this really holds the water up near the surface, which is going to be an ideal habitat for mosquitoes. So we don't lose water through the soil the way the rest of these alluvial floodplain of South Louisiana does. So we're very unique here. And of course, we're a little bit unique that we have more on-site individual wastewater treatment systems or on-site sewage disposal systems. About a third of our homes here in St. Tammany have decentralized sewage. And so they have a pipe, a lot of those out to the ditch. And if those homes are not maintaining their systems, as 40 to 50% of them are not, then it frequently looks like this. Foul smelling, you'll know it when you walk past it, when you're walking your dog, chalky water, and these are all of our mosquito larvae. So one of those 47 species that we have here likes to lay its eggs in organically polluted water. And its name is Culex quinquefasciatus. And that is our primary West Nile virus vector. And that's our primary problem. So we treat, like I said earlier, 600 linear miles of roadside ditch that has sewage pollution in it from these systems because of this problem. We have to treat that weekly. Otherwise, they're going from egg to adult within that week. So this is another very unique problem for St. Tammany. And you see why. We have more of these systems than any other parish in the state. And that is because of those clay soils. And it's because of our suburban and rural landscape, right? It's not feasible to bring wastewater treatment plants to everybody across our quite a large parish here. So these discharge about 17.5 to 30 million gallons of wastewater of toilet flushing a day, which is pretty impressive. I'm very pleased that our council has found a way to have a solution to have these systems inspected. We're hopeful that this will help curb the mosquito problem related to this as well. And it's going to be a real boon for our environment for Lake Pontchartrain estuary also. All right, so what does the work look like? The work looks like traps. The work looks like larviciding those roadside ditches. That's what happens there. And then the work is that adult mosquito control, whether it's by truck or by airplane, by helicopter, and as well managing these aquatic invasive plants also. But the work also looks like this, dipping for larvae in cups to make a dip count. It looks like GIS on the back end. It looks like people standing in the field, literally counting. These are our trained biologists, counting how many mosquitoes are landing on them in a minute. And that is a trigger for treatment as well. These people do this every day of the year. And of course, it also means being sensitive, being selective in how we apply our insecticides in the environment so we can have an environmentally balanced approach, right? Okay, so now on to the dirty stuff. How did we get here? Why are we all here on the Tuesday night? And this is a rundown of a timeline of a process that occurred actually just over 2 years ago. When I was sitting in my leadership St. Tammany class on the Justice Center day, Mr. Sims, who wasn't yet the DA, he was interim DA at the time, says the words to the group: we have a tax structure problem. You have an entity like Mosquito Abatement, who is a fiefdom all on their own, sitting on piles, wasting money. We have no ability to move this money around. It's pretty eye-opening as a leader in that class to hear this. Obviously, he didn't know I was present. I introduced myself to him later on. But that's when it really started for me. At least that's the first I know of his public statements. Of course, it could have happened from before then too. So this has been ongoing for several years. Not sure I'm going to be able to play this, but
government-wise,
want to hear it in their own words.
It's kind of like listening to some of the commentary about maybe some equity in the sides of government, right? Well, you would have a lot more authority and power if so many things weren't already decided for you over here, especially budgetarily. And the power of the purse is a very powerful mechanism when it's not so confined and strangled, and you really get to decide and prioritize for the people who voted for you what is important, and please help us govern to pay for the things that are vitally essential, and then scale it down.
We hear of the process from very early on. This takes in February at the Home Rule Charter meeting. There's lots of slides here. I don't want to go into all the nitty gritty details we see on Facebook from Mr. Sims' own accounts, referencing us directly. Mosquito Abatement District is its own fiefdom and not a line item on a budget. I've met with him. I've told him, I've asked him to please tone down the rhetoric. It's damaging to the service that we do and to what the taxpayers have dedicated. But we see the word fiefdom over and over again. Got another video here.
Abatement district, it's its own fiefdom, correct?
It's not a fiefdom.
It's its own thing.
It's a dedicated tax. It's a dedicated tax. And
we saw in February 25th of this year, the council passes a resolution authorizing a TRAC, Transparency Resource Accountability Committee, authorized that process at that time. Interestingly, we're not written into that resolution at all. It's really focused on parish government, parish departments. But what we see is a series of public records requests, which we're fulfilling. I think we're up to about 6 public records requests, one of which was 8 pages long and 42 questions long, requesting documents, financial information. It was clear from the start that this was all through his own words, through their own words, that this had its own predetermined outcome, essentially. And we can see as we walk through this, just how much work this has entailed out of our office. We're here, we are open. We've always been transparent with our finances and with our operations. We want to continue to be, but when the outcome is predetermined, we have to stand up at some point and say, what's going on here, right? And that's what we've done. And so we go all the way down to September 19th, in which the Government Efficiency Committee, so this is the new version of TRAC, Government Efficiency Committee, meets, and they're asking for input from special districts, from the fire districts, from myself as well. We go there, we gave them input. This is their scoping document. So this is a noble mission dedicated to promoting transparency, accountability, operational efficiency. And our mission is to foster collaboration among local government entities. We're excited to hear those words. We want to collaborate. We always have, right? Here again on their objectives to foster that collaboration. We've got a whole process here, which would involve us meeting with them and whatnot. We gave public comments. Hey, if this is going to work, really we need to address somebody that knows the business of mosquito abatement. We need subject matter experts. Don't take it from us. Let's go find subject matter experts to help advise you about how to do this efficiency thing. Because otherwise, we have an attorney telling us how to do mosquito control. And I would never attempt to give Mr. Sims advice on how to prosecute a criminal because I'm an entomologist. I'm not an attorney, right? But they seem to know a lot about mosquito control. So anyhow, the process wasn't followed at all. What we saw the very 2 weeks later in Mr. Cherry's paper, we saw a business group that was been mobilized by Mr. Sims, again with this predetermined idea. Let's consolidate all of these under parish government. So before we ever had a review process, we already had the answers. That's what we were hearing. And then we moved to October 23rd. And if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have seen it because that's why you're here, right? If you haven't seen it, on October 23rd, we had a prosecution of what this agency does by trained attorneys that are very skillful at presenting an argument. We'll hear it from them.
What we are seeing across the board is waste, duplication, and a lack of flexibility to make decisions at an executive level. While mosquito abatement naturally falls under public works, our focus is on understanding how these dedicated funds impact the parish's ability to support essential services like public safety.
So let me be clear, the parish is in a crunch, right? The DA's millage has been lost 6 times over. Coroner's millage is lost. Parish government's in a crunch. Our taxpayers have some real decisions, real hard decisions to make. That's clear. We've never been against Mr. Sims or funding public safety fully. We support all of those things. We're against a process that's one-sided. We're against a process that doesn't take into account what the taxpayers have dedicated, what they've decided for their services. That's what we're against. Okay, so we're going to go through now we get into the very specific rebuttals. And we're going to go through each of these. And the first is salaries and benefits.
The district spends approximately $10,000 every 5 years on salary surveys.
Okay, that's a true statement. We do salary surveys, so we can do a market analysis of where our salaries stand compared to other similar districts across the state, across the nation, as recommended by the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. We do that every 5 years. We hire a third-party human resources firm, contractor that's selected through a request for proposals process. And we make adjustments to our salary ranges as we go based on that documentation. Essentially, everything we do, we want full documentation. We want a third party to say, you know, oh, that's a little bit too much. We can rein it back in, whatnot. So we go and ask those third parties for that information. This is the another uncomfortable portion of the conversation. This is my salary, since it was brought up in this meeting, right? So you see me listed here. It was brought up that, you know, maybe I make more than any other parish government employee. Well, that may be true, but we're not parish government employees. I'm an agency head. We run this place. We have a staff of 53 individuals from scratch. We don't receive any services from the parish government as well. So it's more like comparison to compare us to the rest of these agency heads. So Mr. Sims himself, although he does receive services from the parish as well. Okay, we've heard a lot about helicopter purchases. Helicopters are really the new standard in mosquito management. The state of Florida, there are more helicopters, twice as many helicopters operating than fixed-wing aircraft. And this is because helicopters can apply both larvicides and adulticides. Usually airplanes are doing one or the other, not both. And helicopters can do so in a much more selective manner. Since they can hover and they can spin and turn really immediately, they have that unique ability to have selective applications, more precise targeting for where those insecticides need to go. We began our plans for acquisition and evaluation of helicopter services all the way back in 2018. And by way of reference, this helicopter, we spent $4 million, taxpayer dollars, and this equates to a one-time purchase of $28 from every taxpayer. So one time we spent 28 of your tax dollars to purchase this helicopter so that it could serve our community for 30 years or more. We have what I like to call a triple threat fleet. We have a fixed wing aircraft, we have our helicopter, and we also have trucks. And this is the ground that they can cover in one night. We have a very large parish. It's about 1,100 square miles. If you notice, our airplane can cover a lot of ground in one night, but it does these turns. It takes about 2 minutes in each turn. It wastes more fuel, more time treating. And so they can only treat these kind of areas at night. If you notice our helicopter, it can bounce around and treat all these kind of irregular shapes because it has that more flexible ability to turn on quicker. But any one given night, we may be operating all three of these operations to bring adult mosquito populations down as quickly as possible. Trucks don't work very well in areas that are rural, right? Because think of it, the trucks have to be confined to that road network, whereas aircraft can kind of blanket the whole area. So a truck in a rural area or the suburban to rural areas, it's really having a Swiss cheese effect on the mosquitoes it's killing. Lots of holes that are not being effectively hit. So we operate all three to give us that best approach. All right, we've heard a lot about the construction of this very building that you're sitting in. And in the DA's presentation, you hear that we spend $8 million on a lab. It was always about a lab. Well, you'll hear more about this.
The district decided that they no longer wanted to submit their mosquitoes to the LSU laboratory because they thought they could get their results faster.
Right. Oh, she was keep going.
So they said that they were going to build their own.
Anyway, well, I'll cut her off. Okay, so the building you're sitting in now, I have pictures of our existing building. The other building across the way was built in 2008 after Hurricane Katrina flooded our then office on Terrace Avenue with 4 feet of water. We built this building in 2008. It was really built for the needs of the parish at the time, for the staff we had at the time. In the time since, this parish has grown by about 25% in population, and our staff has had to accommodate that as well. And this is what it looked like in that room on March 12th of 2019. Anybody remember what happened maybe a week after this? COVID happened and it shut everything down, and we couldn't get this many people inside of any building essentially that we had here to train our staff. Yet we still had a service mission to perform. And so that was one need. We needed this training room that you're all sitting in today. The next need was a truck bay to get all of our equipment in. This is Hurricane Gordon. It's not even a hurricane I remember, but we locked everything up because all of our assets have to get locked away and be secured in our truck bay. Our truck bay at the time in that old building just didn't fit our whole fleet, and that was a problem. So truck bay is another thing we were looking for, and the expansion of the lab. So this is what our old lab looked like. We had sort of kitchen grade appliances and countertops, not the proper lab safety vent hoods and whatnot in this lab. This was sort of, you know, as low grade as you can get on a lab, and we made it work. Vicki made it work for many years, but we needed to expand this lab to get other services. All right, and so this is what our lab footprint looked like in 2008 in the other building, and this is what it looks like now in this building here. You can see the relative size of this building. So we built this building, but a minor component is that lab. This is what that lab looks like. If you're interested in tour after the presentation, certainly go see the lab. This is what that lab looks like. Here's that footprint of this same building. So this is all truck bay. We're sitting right here in this room, and here's the lab, here's the foyer. This is a mechanic shop on this side too. So really a minor component of this building was this lab. And of that lab, to test mosquitoes in-house, we built these two nested rooms. This room here and the room that goes into that door. It's about 400 square feet of the building footprint itself is that room. So the testing really happens in those 400 square feet. We also built these two insectaries, which are noted in green here. And these are to grow our own mosquitoes. We have to have colony mosquitoes, susceptible colony mosquitoes that we know are susceptible to all of our insecticides. And then we bring in wild type mosquito eggs from the field, and we test one versus the other for every insecticide we use. We do that twice a year for all of our insecticides, again, to make sure they're still working as we think they need to. There wasn't a breakout cost. This is an email from our architect. They don't break out what's the cost of the training room compared to what's the cost of the lab. And so there's no way to really know what the cost of each of these components were. According to the DA, it's an $8 million lab. But according to our architect, the numbers for our lab space based on our square footage are between $700,000 and $815,000. Far cry from our $8 million lab. Okay, why did we need to expand this lab? Why were we dedicated to testing these mosquitoes in-house? At LSU, the Louisiana Animal Disease Diagnostic Lab tests mosquitoes for districts, and we used to test our mosquitoes there as well. We decided we needed to test them in-house because we can reduce the turnaround time from 72-hour delay, 72 to 9-day delay, down to the same day, 6 hours later. You know, after that trap is collected, we can have that test result if we're doing it in-house here. So our lab is annually inspected for biosafety level 2 compliance. We also participate in an arbovirus proficiency panel. This is offered by UC Davis or University of California at Davis. What this proficiency panel is, this is a known samples of known positive for arboviruses. So we're talking St. Louis encephalitis virus, Eastern equine, and West Nile virus. Known positives and known negatives. And they test our staff blinded, right? They know which ones they are. They have an accession number. We tell them what our results were. They tell us if we were correct or not. And that's how we make sure that our test results are accurate, just as accurate as they would be at these labs. Now, the lab at LSU has an accreditation of veterinary medical diagnostic lab. Of course, we don't test any other animals other than mosquitoes. So this accreditation of veterinary medicine wouldn't be appropriate for us. Okay, I mentioned that 72 to 9-day delay. So only traps that are placed out on Monday nights get it back on Fridays. And that's because LSU has one call per week. So we have to get our mosquitoes to LSU by 1 p.m. on Wednesdays. So we have to process our mosquitoes. So we pick up that trap Tuesday morning. They get processed in the lab. We identify them as species, we put them in those pools. We put them in a FedEx envelope. We overnight them on Tuesday evening to Baton Rouge so they can make it there for Wednesday. So those mosquitoes that were collected Monday night into Tuesday, we get a test result back on a Friday from those mosquitoes. So it's a significant delay. If a mosquito trap is placed any other night of the week, let's say on Tuesday night, it's going to wait 9 days until the following Friday. So that's a significant time period that causes contributed problems to West Nile virus risk in our population. And then, of course, we get emails like this: hey, the lab's going to be closed next week. It's Thanksgiving. You should be closed. But this means that they won't be testing samples at all that you get on Wednesday next week at all. So if we want to test our traps for Monday, which we're going to have to do because we just had 7 infected mosquito pools just today, we're the only ones that can do that to get those test results back, because the LSU lab will not be accepting the samples. Okay, I mentioned West Nile virus is a bird-borne pathogen. This is a picture I took on the trace. This is a fledgling cardinal. And you'll notice, unfortunately, it's got a mosquito biting its cloaca. That's the skin it can find, right? It's got too many feathers to bite anywhere else. Sometimes they bite around the orbital eye as well. But this is where the rubber meets the road. That's a mosquito that could be infecting that young baby bird. And this is what it looked like when we put video cameras on bird nests in Slidell. And this is an image of a brown thrasher. It's kind of hard to see because it's grainy, but notice all these moving things over here. These are all mosquitoes that are coming to feed on these nestlings. These birds face intense pressure from these mosquitoes at a very young age. This is what's fueling these epidemics of virus in our mosquito populations. So that's what's at stake. And so to demonstrate this lab turnaround time, let's assume that on Monday, we set out a trap on Monday, and we have 2 of 14 infected mosquitoes in that trap. We collect that trap, and that goes to Tuesday. Okay, well, we're testing. We test on Tuesday. So these mosquitoes collected on Monday night in that trap are now, we now know they're infected. We know we have some infected. And so Tuesday night, we can go ahead and treat. We can bring that population down rapidly to hopefully kill all the infected mosquitoes. Now, there's a chance we're not killing them all. We can't kill every mosquito. And so there's a chance an infected mosquito got through as well. But our bird is still infected, right? So we brought that risk down immediately as quickly as we possibly could. And we're going to progress through the week. Thursday, our mosquito population is growing. Maybe we pick up another infected mosquito because it bit that bird. Notice our bird has recovered. So that happens as well. But on Friday, we're left with 1 of 8 perhaps infected in this demonstration. Now, if we look at our 72-hour delay from our trap to treatment, we've got the same number of mosquitoes to start, 2 of 14, same number on Tuesday. We collected that same trap on Monday. But if we send our samples to LSU, we're waiting. As we're waiting, the population continues to grow. None of those mosquitoes were killed that were infected. And so every day is enhanced risk. We finally get our test result back on Friday, and then we can treat right here on Friday night, which is a terrible time to treat, by the way, because on Friday night, people like to go out to eat. We're limited in where we can treat. If people are spending more time outside, there's football games, there's a lot more risk in treating on Friday nights as well. So this is a demonstration of what that really means to have that delay. Okay, this is a fun one. Lack of council notification of capital projects.
Years, but we bought a $4 million helicopter, a lab we didn't need, and we staffed it because why? Because we weren't even on notice that it was happening.
All right, and what's interesting here, the lack of notification of these capital projects. We went back and looked at it. Our building construction prior to our bid opening, starting all the way back May 23rd of 2018, was mentioned on 34 public meeting agendas, on 4 monthly reports that are sent to all of our elected officials. Our discussion about helicopter evaluation and purchase started April 2019. It hit 8 public meeting agendas and 29 monthly reports. And then every time any capital project occurs, it has to go on a published budget. Those published budgets are in the St. Tammany Farmer every year. And every month we send a treasurer's report of how we're spending. These are those treasurer's reports to every elected official. So this concept of no one knew what you were doing is a little ridiculous. Now it gets one step worse. These are those monthly reports in which we're mentioning, here's the evaluation of helicopter service. Here is more helicopter news later on there. Our quarterly reports. This is when we started a 5-year strategic plan. So 5-year plan, we have 5 points to this strategic plan. The first point is to manage a diverse aerial fleet. This is the acquisition of the helicopter. So we're talking about it here in our strategic plan from 2021. Item number 5 on our strategic plan is to build laboratory and training capacity. That's this training room and that laboratory to enhance our operations. So these are our strategic plans set forth in 2021. All the while, everybody's been notified. These are all plans that have been published. All the while, I'll remind you, the DA's office has been fully funded. Every year, we found money for the DA's office, except for next year, we're facing the cut. So all of these insinuations that these decisions were being made while no one knew are completely fabricated, and they're really a time inequivalency to say we're making these decisions now. It's not like we're making a decision to build a building every year or buy a helicopter every year. Those decisions have been made since 2001, since 2018 in some cases, and communicated every step of the way. It gets a little bit better. In April 8th, I met with Parish President Brister, along with Mr. Lorino, our council chair, and Jean Belisario, to tell them of our plans and our initiatives to build out this building and to establish this helicopter. I even came to a parish council meeting and gave this review, and this is a slide from that meeting. This is the May 2nd, 2019 meeting where we talked about our evaluation of the helicopter. And here is a much younger me, slightly more handsome, but I think I've aged well too. Certainly have more gray hair. Anyhow, not because of this process. May 3rd, 2019, press conference in front of our hangar with helicopters, notifying the public what the plan is to evaluate this new service. And then finally on the radio with Charles Dowdy on 94.7, May 15th, 2019. So I don't know how anybody can say no one knew. People knew. Let's move on. All right, I'm going to take a break, but I'm going to ask a guest speaker. Our entomologist, Molly Davies, is going to tell us about, we're going to pivot to some of the things we're hearing about research. Why are we dissecting mosquito ovaries? I promise we're probably 3/4 of the way done here, maybe. Molly, is Molly here? Where are you at? Come on up, Molly.
Everyone can hear me okay? Okay, cool. Bring it down. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm really soft, very soft spoken. Hello, my name's Molly Davies. As Dr. Caluette said, I'm an entomologist here in the lab. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we're dissecting mosquito ovaries. So, fun part of my job. So first of all, what are parity dissections? So parity is just a fancy word that we use to talk about the difference in mosquitoes that have laid eggs versus ones that haven't laid eggs. So parity dissections, these ovary dissections, are just a method that we use to determine the age of a female mosquito. So we dissect their ovaries and we can tell basically if they've laid more eggs, they're an older mosquito. If they haven't laid more eggs, they're a younger mosquito. So why do we do this? This actually helps us evaluate our adulticide treatments. So it helps us look at local populations of mosquitoes and helps us determine our efficacy in adulticide treatments to those mosquitoes. It helps us see if we're being effective in our control and reducing the abundances of those mosquitoes. And at the same time, are we reducing our West Nile virus risk because we're reducing abundances? But also, when we're talking about age of these mosquitoes. Our older mosquitoes are going to be the ones that are going to be more likely to get sick and be infected by West Nile virus. And those mosquitoes are going to be the ones that are more capable of transmitting the virus to other birds, infecting more birds, infecting more mosquitoes, and really amplifying that virus cycle. So that's why we care if we're having older or younger mosquitoes, and dissecting those is the best way to find that out. So to give you a little look into what we look at under the microscope, it looks like a bunch of spaghetti up here, I know. But these are some ovaries from the Culex quinquefasciatus mosquitoes in Slidell off Old Spanish Trail, one of our efficacy trials from this summer. So you can see this is a younger mosquito on the left and an older mosquito on the right. So how do we tell the difference here when I'm looking at this under the microscope? So the younger mosquitoes, if we take a closer look at that, have those tightly coiled skeins. They look like little balls of yarn right here. That basically means that there's capability of supporting a clutch of eggs, but hasn't really been able to support one yet. Versus this ovary, this mosquito on the right, just looks like loose spaghetti. That mosquito has laid a lot of eggs. So all of those skeins of ovarials, something that is able to support mosquito eggs, completely unraveled. So we know this is a younger mosquito and this is an older mosquito. So adult mosquito in her lifetime can lay about anywhere between 5 to 10 egg rafts. So that's each egg raft is about, can be 50 to 100 eggs per egg raft. So you think about how many mosquitoes we have, how many females, and the capability of those. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. We're now up to 3 microphones. All right, so in their presentation, there was a discussion about a patent that we had pursued. We received a provisional patent and applied for a full patent. And this, I think this is a great story, because this patent was designed much like the electrical meter on your house to be read remotely. This device was a sewage monitoring device that could monitor the power, the electrical power to your aerator, monitor the air pressure, also monitor the level of solids in your septic tank as well. And so these would throw to your smartphone to help you troubleshoot how to maintain your system. And it also could communicate to municipal utility to say, hey, something's not working properly with this particular septic system. So this was a concept that we had to really try to solve a community problem that we had here at St. Tammany, which is the proliferation of all these septic systems. This is what this was designed for. We were trying to patent this so that we could control the manufacturing costs, so that we could offer it at low or no cost to our residents, right? And then we could sell this abroad in the nation to help lower our costs of operations for the district itself. So to me, this is a win-win it's a 3-way win. It's a win to solve a community problem. It's a win for the district to offset costs, as well as a way to incentivize employees, because they could share in the net proceeds from this on the sale of this thing outside of St. Tammany Parish. And to that end, we asked the Louisiana State Ethics Board, hey, is it ethical for our employees to receive royalties for the sale of such a product if it were able to be distributed? And what they said was that any royalties paid pursuant to these agreements would be compensation to which the employees are duly entitled to receive for the performance of their job duties and responsibilities. So that's the story of the patent. All right, let's move on to travel. I know, I'm sorry, we're getting long in the tooth, but I promise we're bringing it home here. Travel. So commercial pesticide applicators in the state of Louisiana are required to attend conferences to maintain their professional licensing to apply pesticides. We are licensed by the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry. 22 of our staff members maintain a total of 71 current LDAF certifications for the application of pesticides. Our pilots, of course, we want our pilots to be trained and to be safe when they're flying at 200 feet above our homes, right? They attend biannual flight safety training from aircraft manufacturers for the aircraft we maintain here. So of course they're going to have to travel to do that. As well, our operations are very heavily, I hope you've seen, scientific and technology based. They continuously evolve and are going to require continuous education of our staff and professional development. Finally, our commissioners, though they are qualified in their field, most of them generally don't have an experience in mosquito abatement, mosquito control. So sending them to conferences to learn about the best practices, the nationwide best practices, are a great way for them to understand, hey, what is it the things that we should be doing here back home in St. Tammany as well? So travel is a requirement of a professional field for professional development as well. Okay.
It's interesting because when we talked to a private company to get a very rough estimate of what it would cost to have them take over mosquito control completely in St. Tammany Parish, they said it could be done for under $7 million.
All right, so here the assertion is we spend about $9 million this year for mosquito abatement in this parish. The assertion is we can pay a private contractor to do the same service for $2 million less, as they had a verbal quote from somebody. This is what you're going to get from a special district. A special district is a non-for-profit, a government entity really in our own. And this model can really focus on what's best for the community. We can focus on best practices, on the service itself. We can focus on safety to the environment and to our staff and to the public. And effectiveness is our #1 priority. But the assumption that this can be done cheaper with a private entity is a fallacy. And that's because we don't have to have a profit margin. A private company has to pay back the owners, generally a 20 to 30% profit margin. They can't purchase on the state contract at costs like we can. And they have to pay taxes. We do not pay taxes. They would have to pay property tax, inventory tax for movables, as well as sales tax. So the costs for a contractor are always going to be higher for the same services. So if we're talking about contract services versus a government service, we need to make sure we're talking about the same level of service. That's what's going to get lost. The only way you can do this cheaper for $2 million less a year is what are you going to cut from the service? That's what it comes down to. And when we look at aerial, they did mention in their report to aerial contractors, there are companies that will spray with aircrafts. Our cost, we asked a contractor, Dynamic Aviation, for the cost. If we were to liquidate our aircraft assets and let them come park an aircraft here, how much would it cost us? Well, it cost them 42% more than our cost to own and operate our own aircraft. That was their quote, direct. That's not a verbal quote, that's a written quote from them to do that service. Ultimately, it's that service response time that we're really concerned. That same day service that you're getting from trap to treatment and the same day service when you need us, we're there. When somebody's going to be at your door, a trained professional is going to be there. That's the risk of loss in this case. And so for a contractor, what you're losing from this picture is going to be a focus on larviciding. It's going to be a focus on source control of mosquitoes. It'll certainly be on loss on the selective application of adulticides, insecticides by that helicopter, which can get that precise targeting. It's going to be a loss of aquatic weed management, which are the source of a big problem with mosquitoes for us. It's going to be the loss of inspecting our 65 square miles of coastal marsh. And it's going to look a lot heavier, mostly like this truck. That's what you're going to pay for in a contractor. So you're going to get a reliance on more adult measures of mosquito control with a private contractor. Okay, so now I want to pivot and I want to get some other speakers here too. So first I have Dr. Claudia Riegel, who is the director of the New Orleans Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board, to tell us a little bit about core competencies.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you so much. And today, if you can hear me, let's see, I'm going to talk about what integrated mosquito management is and what are those core competencies in our field. This way. Here we go. So, but I do want to introduce a really wonderful project that we were awarded that is a huge deal for the state of Louisiana, for our region, for the city of New Orleans. It is the Gulf South Vector. It's the Vector Educational Centers for Training, Outreach, and Resources. So this is funded by the Centers for Control, Disease Control and Prevention. It was a competitive award, and we really are going to focus today on those core competencies and the practices that we do. So I wanted you to listen to this video first.
Living alongside water is a fact of life for many of us, and often this means dealing with mosquitoes. There are over 3,500 mosquito species in the world, but only a handful are a nuisance or of medical concern. Most mosquitoes are simply irritating pests, but some carry dangerous diseases like West Nile virus or dengue fever. But luckily, mosquito control programs have the tools to keep people safe and cities livable. The United States has some of the best mosquito control in the world. Mosquito control programs, led by city and regional offices, combine many strategies to reduce mosquito numbers. These programs target mosquitoes at all life cycle stages and minimize our exposure to bites. Mosquito control programs also work closely with health departments. By collaborating in disease surveillance, leaders can make informed, data-based decisions to respond to any threats. Disease prevention does more than just keep individuals healthy. It also reduces the burden on local medical systems, lowers risks for the labor force, and safeguards vacationing tourists. Mosquito control also defends the animals in our homes and the livestock on our farms, preventing illness like heartworm in cats and dogs, and curtailing diseases that affect cattle. Overall, mosquito control provides a vital service. By using a multifaceted approach called integrated mosquito management, mosquito control programs reduce mosquito populations, prevent mosquito bites, lower health risks and economic burden, and allow us to enjoy life in our communities safely.
And I really encourage everyone to go to vectoroutreach.org. So it'll give you a little bit more information about this project. But really the purpose of it, and I'll get to where I'm going here with the core competencies, is we're really working to strengthen the ability for our workforce, our students, to be able to control vectors and also prevent vector-borne disease outbreaks. Now, what's really exciting in this project is that it goes from Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. So that Gulf South states, it's 5 states. We have over 30 partners, and they come from private sector, universities, programs like these as well, associations, National Environmental Health Association, American Mosquito Control Association, those are all in there. We have about 65 people that are participating in this project, and they are subject matter experts across the different stakeholder groups, from universities to private business. So this is just a few of our folks here. There's some logos, and you can see all the little red dots. Those are our folks that are partners on this particular project. So, I really encourage everybody to go visit the website. So of course, it comes in 3 prongs of what we do, and education is a big part of it. And so we are making toolkits that anyone can go download. A resident, a business, university, you name it, they can go and download these really great social media posts, and there's other content as well. But that's not really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk really more about evaluation section. And so we have been conducting these very much in-depth interviews of vector control, so mostly mosquito control programs in those 5 states.
So really important because we have to understand where the programs are. We have to understand the practices that they employ and how they are able to meet the capacity, right, to reach those core competencies. So of course, that's where the project comes in, is if they don't, well, then we're going to provide those resources and education and things like that to try to get them there. We're also creating regional partnerships to train the workforce. Don't forget about the workforce. So we may be doing training for pest management, and those folks are then going to be implementing those methods that we are asking them to do and based on core competencies so that they do the best service in the area. So this is just to give you an idea of where the programs are in our region. Look at Louisiana. And I will tell you, we might be last in a lot of categories, but when it comes to mosquito control, we are number one, okay? So that's a good thing. And so, but this in blue are where a county or a parish would have a type of program. There's lots of places in Texas that they may just have a city, but that's where that is. Now you start to look at it even a little bit closer, those hashtags, that's where they do surveillance. So they're collecting mosquitoes. So we still have a lot of room for improvement here, to be honest. Florida does a really good job with that. So, but again, there's a lot of special districts that are in this group, and that is stable funding for these services. So they don't have to worry about when there's a COVID and they take 30% of your budget, what do you do, right? So they're able to continue on with those services. So what does best practices really look like, right? So you have a very specific set of things that you must do. One is surveillance. You need to do source reduction, that's turning over those containers. Biological control, fish, right? So that's pretty popular. Insecticides, use of them are part of an IPM program. Resistance testing, and also public education. So here's some just photographs that you can see below, but those are the components. Now, Dr. Kelly, you had also showed the CDC manual, but this is the best practices that come from American Mosquito Control. And I will tell you, this is just a recipe book, but every mosquito control program is local. So what we do in Orleans, we follow the same playbook, but the mosquitoes are a little different. Our containers are a little bit different. We don't have your septic tank issues here. So we have to modify a bit, but that, information, gathering your information quickly and using your data in all of those different steps are all the same that you would find across our parishes here. There's a QR code there. I would recommend that you actually scan that. It'll take you right to that book because it's a wealth of information. So, so this is what we've been doing as far as those interviews and really understanding what these programs do. We're at 52 programs across these states, and our goal is to hit 75%. This is a 5-year project, and we really need to understand how these programs exist and what they do so that we can provide those tools, right, so that we prevent those vector-borne diseases. Now let's talk really about core competencies, okay? So you really, for a program to be fully competent and do the best work to protect the citizens, you have to have a certain number of things. So program is going to follow an IPM program. So that's not a program that is going to just turn the spray trucks on and go on a schedule. Okay, that's not really what needs to happen. So using standardized surveillance program, targeting specific species. And you might actually see that sometimes here in St. Tammany, they may spray later at night. So we know, because I pay attention, is that they're targeting the southern house mosquito, Culex quinquefasciatus. But your floodwater mosquitoes, they come out right at dark. So they may shift for when they spray. Species identification and arbovirus testing, super important. And by the way, we also test our mosquitoes in-house in Orleans Parish. So we get the next day service as well. Insecticide resistance and using different types of insecticides, larvicides and adulticides to hit those multiple stages. So there's a lot of different steps, including community outreach, and communicating with neighboring districts. Actually, the state of Louisiana does a really great job, and the Louisiana Mosquito Control Association is that place where directors are talking to each other. What's new? Have you tested this product? What's going on? So that is really part of your core competency. So we also want database control decisions. That's really where you get away from spraying on a schedule. You're using your data for those management decisions based on resistance as well as surveillance. Now, you may not think about the resources part for core competencies, but I want you to think about a hurricane comes in. Do you have the trucks? Do you have trained personnel? Do you have those SOPs, those standard operating procedures and those management plans? They're going to help guide what you need to do. So those are all part of those core competencies that you need to hit. So I am going to tell you, okay, that here in St. Tammany, they do have the first section. They do that as well. Second, they make data-based decisions here. There's very clear cut. You can look on their website, and they're not the only program that does that as well. And do they have appropriate resources and licensed staff? I think Dr. Caluette told you about all the different licenses that they have. Incredibly important, so that that really helps professionalism of your inspectors. There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with it. So those are all three. I'm going to wrap it up here by saying, I think a lot of times people think mosquito control is kind of easy to do. Turn the trucks on, here it goes, the mosquito man's out. But it is a highly complex profession and discipline. So it encompasses, for mosquito control, all the activities aimed at management and associated public health. Just last week, we did a seminar on the economic impact of West Nile virus. It was a student from LSU. We're going to post it on our website, so it'll be there. But there is true economic impact. Miami, for example, Puerto Rico, and there are others with Zika virus. Big issue. You have to have that robust surveillance system that's going to drive your decision-making skills. And that's from resistance to virus testing and understanding your local tolerances. What nobody wants to do, and I know that they do that here, the same thing in Orleans is, when I tell our mayor or our elected officials or, a different health department, I have to be very clear about our products working, our methods working, and you do that here as well. So that's why there's so much work behind the scenes to make sure that those products are working effectively. Infrastructure as well, you can't do it overnight. Sometimes you have to do these things over many years to build your capacity, which ultimately impacts the quality of your service. So equipment, supplies, and also one of the most important things is your trained personnel. So interagency collaboration, that's our last one, and partnering. So very important to have that collaboration between our groups. And education and outreach, it is more than just your inspector. It is everyone that's in there. I say the public, our government officials. It was actually heartbreaking to hear that your physician misdiagnosed you, right? So we are working very hard with Gulf South Vector for that, and also our pest management folks. So with that, thank you.
Thanks, Claudia. We have a remote speaker, Nina Dacko, who is an extension assistant with Texas A&M and the chair of the local issues committee for American Mosquito Control Association. Can we bring up Nina?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we got you, Nina.
All right, there's just one thing that I'd love to share, and if I could figure out how to do that. One second.
See you.
All right. You know what? I don't need to share. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover some things that I'd like to talk about first off, mosquito control, and then why does mosquito control function efficiently and effectively in a independent special district, because that's actually something that I really love to talk about. So first off, I want to cover basic reasons of why anyone would want to have mosquito control. And there's been a lot of discussion here, and a lot of it is pretty obvious when you talk about disease transmission, right? We don't want West Nile virus transmission. We don't want to hear those stories that we already heard earlier in the day. But there are some other diseases that are up and coming that you could potentially test for example, with your lab. that may not be offered by other places. So things like Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus are two vector species that I know exist in St. Tammany. And though we don't currently have them circulating within Louisiana, there are certainly incidences, increased incidences of dengue virus being locally transmitted in some states, including Florida and California. So it's really only a matter of time before we see something like that in and around St. Tammany. We also know that there are Anopheles mosquitoes, and though we thought that we had eradicated malaria a long time ago, we don't have it regularly in our country these days, but we did see a reoccurrence of this in Florida just a few years ago. And so that is something to be mindful of. And so to collect and understand the data that everyone's talking about is very, very important. So disease prevention is one thing that a mosquito control district does, but they also really support the tourism industry. And so if there is any kind of tourism in St. Tammany, businesses are absolutely affected by fighting pressures put on by mosquitoes. No one wants to go to visit or live in a place that regularly has a lot of mosquito activity. And so think about your any place that has a patio, any place that has any recreational activities outside, such as hotels, such as restaurants. Those are two major industries that greatly benefit off of area-wide mosquito control. And what I mean by area-wide, this is not just a treatment of, say, for example, a hotel property. You would really need to know where those mosquitoes are coming from, and they may not be from the hotel property. And so you really need something like a contiguous district to take care of something like this. There also is something to be said about property value. Okay, this is why this is an independent special tax district, is because properties will become more valuable with the quality of life improvement that a mosquito control district can absolutely offer that local area. All right, and as Claudia was explaining, and I'm sure that you've all noticed from Kevin's great presentation, it's really helped me not have to do a lot of work here, but mosquito control is not simple. It is not some person just, driving a truck down the road on Tuesday because they've been asked to do this. It's complex. It is data-based. It requires a lot of surveillance. And so that being said, you really need quality people that are hired, usually from your locale that's going to know the area and be able to implement methods that are going to be effective. Again, hyper-localized programs. There are problems in St. Tammany that Kevin was mentioning that are not in other places around the country. And so it's really difficult to really compare one program to another program because no two programs are in a like environment or in a like climate. And then I've been hearing a lot of this, research. The term research has been coming up, but I'd like to point out the fact that research is actually subjective. And so someone who knows how to do mosquito control, there may be known methods to battle something that you're dealing with, but sometimes you get out in the field and it doesn't work. And so what do you have to do? You actually have to manipulate what you're doing and sometimes even manufacture a method on the fly. And that takes a knowledgeable person. And so for a patent to have been developed, that wasn't developed because there was a plan. It developed because there was a need. And there wasn't anything to actually service that at that like that patented product at that time. So the word research being thrown around here as if it's not needed. In our field, it absolutely is needed because we really will experience unique things on the fly all the time. And so that's going to bring about efficiency and effectiveness of the independent special district for mosquito control. Of course, we've talked about dedicated funding, and that is not just a line item someone can actually borrow from or take money from. It is a dedicated fund that the taxpayers have chosen to have and vote on it continuously. And to have a special purpose district ensures that that money actually goes to the purpose of mosquito control. with dedicated staff as well. Because if there is somewhere that may not be a special district, maybe you have mosquito control housed within Public Works or Public Health Department, those folks can be pulled in other directions when they really need to be and need to stay focused on mosquito control. So across the country, there may be a program that's part of a city or part of a parish, part of a county. They all have to go through various layers of government. And so when you are housed within a special district, your board knows what you are doing. They're not concentrating on the emergency that's happened in IT because someone's email got hacked and now all of every government employee information is out to everybody who wants to look at a certain webpage. You don't have to deal with something like a police emergency that maybe needs to be addressed at that very second by the parish police jury or something. You're really having a board that is connected to exactly what that mosquito control district is doing. And again, I know it's been covered, but it is imperative that those folks go and get training as well, so that they know those proper integrated mosquito management techniques that both Kevin and Claudia were referring to. All right, and so that being said, when you're not housed within an independent special district, there are new challenges to come up. And so you run into programs that end up battling each other for those general funds when nothing is actually fully dedicated. Then you don't know the accountability of where that money is actually going. So a lot of the times, and this is coming from those evaluations that Claudia was talking about, I'm actually doing a lot of those evaluations around Texas, and a lot of people don't even know what their budget is. They can't tell me because it's spread out across different departments and divisions. And so it's really hard to put a budget on exactly what's being spent on mosquito control. Some people tell me $20,000. Well, they didn't take into consideration the IT help that they're getting from that department. They didn't take into consideration maybe a different department that has a laboratory. And all of this becomes very disjointed and disconnected. And so then you have a bunch of, right hand doesn't necessarily know what the left hand is doing. And so you get a patchwork, and you just don't get that with an independent special district. Another thing is a lot of county government, parish government, city councils, they really like when something's predictable. And mosquito control is not something that is predictable. Reason being is because we don't know how to always predict those diseases that could come up. Hurricanes are not always predictable. You may have 0, you may have 1, you may have 2 in a year, but you never really fully know when that's coming. And so to have a portion of money on standby that's available for those purposes is absolutely critical. And so large reserves are something that really need not be picked on, because you never know what tomorrow will bring, whether that be a disease outbreak or some other natural disaster. And so another thing that could potentially happen, especially if you have a parish like St. Tammany and it has several cities located within the parish, just because a parish police jury decides to do something, it may not be in agreement with what some of the municipalities want. They may want more. Maybe they don't want as much. And so then again, you lose standardization of this contiguous treatment across a large area. And when you lose that type of treatment, then you're going to lose efficiency and efficacy. You're not going to know as much about where your mosquitoes are coming from and how to best solve those issues, because you may be losing data from different parts of what is now a contiguous district. I've also heard mentioned about contractors here. And let's say that a contractor says that they can do this for $2 million, less dollars, and that's been brought up. However, are they really adding permanent jobs to the local economy where people are going to stay within the place? I mean, that's something that local government actually adds to. It does add to the local economy because people are going to be permanently employed there. And if there's a contractor, that may not happen. Additionally, a contractor doesn't only serve one district. Okay, so they're serving many districts. And so what usually happens is there is a fund that's put forward, and they're going to say, okay, we are going to, let's just say 6 million, because that number has been thrown out. Someone may say, okay, we're going to do this for $6 million. Well, what if you need to expand the program? Who's going to know how to do that? And will you even know that? So the ability to expand the program or give some kind of needed upgrade is going to be virtually non-existent. One last point that I would like to say is the folks that are in St. Tammany voted for this, and they can absolutely ensure that their money is going to a service that they want, and that they can be that service has a turnaround time that is acceptable. You cannot guarantee that with a contractor. So with that, I'll wrap up there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nina. Great perspective. Got one final subject matter expert, and he didn't get the memo that he could have joined remotely. Instead, he flew across the country to join us. Mr. David Brown is a former director from Sacramento, Yolo County and counties in California, as well a former technical advisor to the American Mosquito Control Association.
Thank you. I promise, I didn't bring slides, and I'm going to be very brief here because we've been here a long time. But there have been some issues that have come up that I thought I'd at least try to address one last time, especially questions about transparency or competency that Dr. Caillouet, I think, has addressed quite well, but I kind of want to bring it up again a little bit in terms of why a special district was formed under Louisiana state statute. And they're generally described as local governments created by the people of a community to deliver specialized services essential to their health, safety, economy, and well-being. And the community forms the special districts, which are political subdivisions authorized through a state statutes. Now, what I find amazing is this special district board has the expertise that allows the district to respond to a rapidly changing world and to new technologies quickly. Dr. Caillouet and even some of the other speakers have presented some of those new technologies that are coming about. Nina just talked about some of the invasive mosquitoes and pathogens that we're starting to see throughout the country. And Dr. Regal described all of the components of an integrated mosquito management program. So due to that specialized nature, the special districts must maintain their critical infrastructures and evolve with state-of-the-art tools of the trade, whether it be more effective pesticide delivery systems like a helicopter, enhanced lab capacity to identify mosquitoes next day, or to address invasive mosquitoes and their pathogens that they may carry. And that definition is consistent with Louisiana state law. And I know you've already seen it on there, but let me read it for you again, because it's outlined that a mosquito control district can be formed as follows: the abatement, control, eradication, and study of mosquitoes and other arthropods of public health importance and all activities therefore thereto. Now, unfortunately, the October 23rd, 2025 presentation before the Government Efficiency Committee did not discuss the effective abatement, control, eradication, and study of mosquitoes, but instead picked items out of context and presented them in a fashion that suggested there had been no thought, study, or analysis of how that mosquito control agency is following the statute to the letter of the law. And I think that was described quite well by Dr. Caillouet a little bit earlier. What I question is, where were the questions from that committee that could have had the information that you saw provided tonight? None of those questions came. So in my mind, it was clearly a predetermined objective without appropriate investigation. So you absolutely need dedicated staffing and funding to get the real-time responses that you do. There, I talked about a contractor, and I think Dr. Caillouet explained that quite well. I always like to kind of make it easy. So if you've got a $10 district and they say a contractor comes in and says, well, I can do it for $7, but I also make I make a profit. Well, you've got to realize then out of that $7 there, $2 is going to go to the profit. So now you're getting half of the service that you would have been getting from the government agency that's doing the job that you're seeing done quite well. So I'll finish with Dr. Caillouet and his team are providing the necessary expertise and scientific services with oversight of his board as defined by state statute to protect the health and welfare of the residents of St. Tammany. Any misguided change to the program without a thorough understanding of what is involved would be a public health and quality of life mistake. AMCA is very proud of this program. The American Mosquito Control Association, we consider it a premier top shelf program. And we'd like to think that actually we know the residents do because they've been voting for it for many years. So thank you.
All right, I promise we're going to wrap here soon. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight a few things that we've done through this process. We took a real hard, long look at ourselves and said, hey, how can we do better? We can always continuously improve. There's always opportunities to shave, to be more efficient. And what we've done, actually have done this for the past 2 different administrations, so over 5-6 years now, had a conversation. How can we share equipment, share services with parish government? And we're looking at one right here, our Marsh Master, which was brought up. The parish has this equipment. So we've initiated these discussions with the parish to enter into cooperative endeavor agreements to borrow their equipment when necessary. And likewise, if we have something that they need, for instance, drones and whatnot that we can operate, drones can do damage assessments pretty quickly after a hurricane damage scenario. I've already mentioned we've lowered our property tax revenue for this year from 3.1 mils down to 2.27 on your tax bill just now. We've looked at other ways we can save, and we think we can shave another $1.7 million just in this next year by selling the aircraft that's no longer in use, as well as the shared equipment services with the parish. We're going to look to reduce our travel budget. We'll also look to shave our benefits where necessary as well. Public engagement for capital projects. So no one can ever say they didn't know. We are going to implement a policy. Well, we're going to bring it to the board tomorrow, actually, so it's your vote, to say, hey, we need to have town hall meetings. Whenever we're going to make a capital project, build a building, something that costs more than $500,000, we're going to bring it to the community with a series of community meetings to take that input from you guys as well. We're going to initiate a process every 5 years that we go out with an RFP process to find subject matter experts to come in and give us a service review. Tell us from these subject matter experts, where could we be doing better? Where are we doing too much? You know, and how can we enhance this program? We need a fair process for those reviews. They can't be done by attorneys. They have to be done by subject matter experts. And finally, we're going to continue our 5-year strategic plan. We had this plan implemented in 2021. We said benchmark 2026 for seeing what we've gotten done. We've got a lot of those things done. Unfortunately, this last year has been quite derailed as we go. And this is that millage reduction. We've reduced that mills down from 4.2, a full almost 2 mils, down from 4.2 across those 10 years from our last renewal. And this is what that strategic planning looks like with a SWOT analysis also. So what's at stake with this conversation is this same day mosquito control service that you're used to. It's that proactive public health approach. It's the local expertise when something new, a Zika virus, a chikungunya, something new, something we've never heard of, the Sutu virus comes into our environment. It's stable funding and preparedness for those emergency events. And it's also an environmentally balanced approach. It's not an overhanded, too much insecticide. It's finding the source of the production of these mosquitoes. And finally, I'd like to note that none of us have really chosen, we never really wanted to be in this position, of course. Our team, we're entomologists, we're scientists, we're public servants. We don't seek out the spotlight. This is a very uncomfortable position for me to be in, as I'm sure you're aware. The folks on this team work out in the field. They want to be in the field. They work in those sewage ditches. They're bringing service to your doorstep when you need us. We're here to fight for the science-based services that you have dedicated your taxes to. Our team has worked diligently to provide you with the highest quality service. guided by these best practices and national industry standards. And until you tell us otherwise, we will continue to safeguard these services with the same responsiveness, professionalism, and dedication that you have come to expect from us. We encourage all residents to use the coming weeks to make your voices heard by our council members and by our team at Mosquito Abatement, because your input matters. I so value your time and your commitment to learning the facts and understanding our process. At this time, we do want to take public comment. I know we've gone a little long, so we'll take public comments and questions at the microphone here. Other than that, we have staff members ready to give folks tours of the laboratory, of the hangar, whichever. We're an open book. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Any questions? Come to the mic over here so everybody can hear you. All right, well, there's people online as well that want to hear you from them.
All right. Who's the pit bull that's going to defend this hostile takeover? Is it you?
Are you for hire?
No. I have another question. I don't think you have a pit bull, do you?
I don't.
The three commissioners, are they called commissioners?
Yes.
That are left, are they under pressure?
Yes, there is a call, a resolution, evidently that's on the council meeting's agenda for December 4th to remove the entire board. That's right.
And at that point, what happens?
That's a good question. The board, the council will approve their own or appoint their own.
Oh,
of course.
All right. So no more experts. You're going to be political pawns?
It's whoever council gives. Of course, the parish president also appoints one. Parish council appoints one.
Well, you have two vacancies right
That's
now.
right. That's correct.
Who appoints those? Or are they going to be
One of
appointed?
them is appointed by the parish president, and the other one is appointed by the parish council currently.
And do you think you're going to get a replacement?
We're waiting to find out.
Okay, that's probably no. If they want to dissolve it. Gosh, without a governing body. Okay, so what we're saying is that the monthly reviews and the annual audits are not enough for these guys.
I think that's what we're hearing. I certainly can't.
So it sounds like a predetermined outcome.
Yes.
All right. Everybody hears that? If you want to keep this, you better make your voices known. Okay.
Speak at the mic, please.
Yeah.
Hi, my question or my worry is that public perception that has come about is so negative. How are we going to reach the public? You know, my name is Vicki Taylor, and I was the former director. I took over after Chuck, and we've always had such a good relationship with the public, and we've always been well known with the districts. It's important that our people travel to these meetings. I hate to see this 50% cut because we're going to lose so much, but I am really worried. Next year our vote comes up, so it is going to take everything we've got. And this was fantastic. This was a fantastic thing, but I'm really worried about the vote next year.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Vicki.
Hi, I'm Jamie Segura, and I live in Covington. And I regularly attend the parish council meetings. And with all due respect to Mr. Corbin, who has stayed, 3 of your council members walked out already that were here for this meeting, which I initially applauded that they were here to actually hear the defense of why this is needed. I hope they left with the same impression that I now have, having been a lifelong resident of Louisiana. My way of controlling mosquitoes is like that. I can remember as a kid riding behind the trucks. I'm surprised I'm still alive, because who knows what they were spraying in the 60s, you know. But you have to let your council members know. You have to attend the council meetings, because this is an essential service that we need. And with a vote coming up, is the millage up for renewal next year? Is that what it is?
That's correct.
So they got a big surprise last year when they thought they were going to wipe out the library system. And while the DA's 2% tax failed, the library was refunded 100% for what the library system asked for. So we can fight defunding because it's your dollars. The taxpayers of St. Tammany decided this was an important issue. Did you say in what year that was?
1968.
68. Oh my God, I was really young. So now all of a sudden, because of, with all due respect to Mr. Corbin, mismanagement of parish funds by previous administrations, the parish finds itself in financial straits. But they want to come after the money that the taxpayer said, we want to pay and we want this service. Exactly. When that woman hounded on a $4 million helicopter, my first thought, I was at that meeting and I thought, well, when was the last time she went to the helicopter dealership to price a helicopter? You know, come on. What did you think it was, you know? But we have to stand strong against the efforts of the district attorney, who in his campaign said he had plenty of money and didn't need any more. So let's support the system. Kevin, I think y'all are doing a great job. I know I didn't really have a question, but so we have to stand up. I'm an activist. We have to go to the meetings. You have to call your council members. And I think a number of you are represented by David Kugel. Bring him up. Let him know this is important. Okay? That's all. Good job, Kev.
Thank you, Jamie.
Just want to reinforce a couple of things and to the. So sorry. Yeah. They
yeah, you got to come over here, Harp.
They try not to.
Harp Jones, the director. Come this one. Okay. Harp Jones, the director of the Iberia Parish Mosquito Abatement, and the current president of the American Mosquito Control Association.
Right. They tend not to let me have a microphone, but I want to a message to the folks that have come out tonight and have sat through a very well put together presentation by my colleague. And yes, I do. Kevin was young once. I did meet him, Molly, for the first time at Tulane, learning tracheal dissection techniques. So that's been quite some time ago, but you can be very proud of the residents
of St. Tammany Parish can be very proud of the agency that they have here. I can fully attest that they ascribe to not only the AMCA's best practices, but the best practices that you could imagine any government agency would elevate themselves to a higher level of profession because they have been entrusted with public monies. They take that very seriously, and each and every one of these employees I have known for going on 20 plus years now, they live in your community. They're dedicated to their, not just to their job, but they're dedicated to doing a service for their neighbors. And they do everything that they can. And you're very fortunate to have the resources, to have the program that you do have to deliver the high level of services that you do deliver to the residents of St. Tammany Parish. And they should feel very fortunate. And they felt that way for 57 years. So now is not the time to go in a different direction. Because I can remember the old stories about NASA and Stennis and JPL trying to come here, and you could not go outside. Without this program, you will not be able to go outside again. Thank you for your time, and really enjoyed meeting everyone, and keep up the good work. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Where do you stand?
Okay, I support what you guys have done. You saw my name up there repeatedly on his chart, but I'm understand. My job as a parish councilman, make sure I understand all aspects of the story. That's what I'm trying to do. I heard one. I want to make sure I was here tonight. Hear what Kevin had to say. Kevin, there's a little bit that I learned, but I spent enough time with Kevin that there was not a whole lot to do with the patient side. So I understand. I think I understand the system, process, how it functions, and why it's necessary.
That's an independent entity. Is that what you understand?
I understand the value. I'm learning more about the independent, the need for independent agency. You have to listen.
You want to keep it independent?
I want to understand what the options are.
Okay, you're going around in the circle.
Well,
I think at least Mr. Corbin is here.
Yeah, I don't want to make an end of it.
you're not making it. I'm here to understand. I'm a believer in Steve Kevin, see first understand. Trying to make sure I understand so I can make a conscious decision. Appropriate. Am I disappointed or unhappy with mosquito abatement? No, I'm not. And the residents that I talked to, as long as I've been a councilman, which is only 2 years, I've yet to have somebody call and complain to me about mosquito abatement. So it's way into my decision process.
Okay, thank you.
This kind of feels like a roast, right? Visual.
My name is Eileen DeHarrow, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of St. Tammany. And I just wanted to let you know that when we were aware of the attempt to removal of Dr. Trina George, we had a meeting and we supported a letter sent to all of the councilmen, and I brought it to the council meeting that night, which we didn't get a chance to produce it. But we were in opposition of the lack of transparency in what was going on. And for the League of Women Voters, we are the voice of the voters of this parish. And any action to remove a millage that was voted on by the people will be opposed. And any attempt to take money away from dedicated funds, we will oppose. And I just want to let you know, you have our support and we're watching. And I also would also like to mention that I worked over 30 years in virus research. I know how important it is, the detection of these viruses. And that's me speaking as a personal. And I've worked in containment on encephalitis viruses. I had to wear the PAPR and all this stuff and watch to make sure that the battery didn't run out, so I had enough time to get the hell out of the building. So, and in doing the letter that I did for the League of Women Voters, I missed my physical therapy, and I missed my dry needling, which I really like. So it was important to me to make sure that I was there and support you.
Thank you, Eileen. If there are no other speakers, certainly enjoy the rest of our cookies, and we will have members of our staff at the lab or in the foyer to arrange our tours if you're interested. Thank you again for your time. Really do appreciate it.